It's been quite some time since I've given you all an update on what's been going on in the King Tide Lagoon. There's a lot of changes that have happened, and there's a lot of new faces here on the channel. And to the returning subscribers, let's go ahead and check out what's been going on in one of my favorite saltwater projects I've ever had. Let's get into it. What's going on, reefers? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Blaine, and this is the King Tide Corals channel. For all of you that are new to this channel, I want to welcome you all to my little saltwater journey, or whatever you guys would call this, and also to all the new subscribers. Thanks so much for joining the family. It's really exciting to see we're almost at 900 subscribers. Kind of crazy to think that just almost a year ago I started this channel, and I was thinking to myself, maybe I could get 100 subscribers, or maybe 200 subscribers, but here I am, almost at 900 subs, and I'm really excited to share with you all. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm thinking I might do a little coral pack giveaway for you guys to basically say thank you so much for supporting my journey and supporting this channel. In this week's video, we're going to be going over an update of what's been happening inside the King Tide Lagoon. This is one of my favorite saltwater projects I've ever had, and this is a tank that's had several different revamps, and at one point it was a coral tank that had LPS and SPS in it with no fish. At one point it was a clownfish harem tank, and now with this revamp it's a soft coral dominant lagoon that has some really interesting inverts, some very cool fish, and some extremely unique softies. I'm excited to share with you all what's been going on since the last update. I know the last update of this tank was quite some time ago, so it's going to be good to get into it with you guys, talk about this tank, and show it off to any of you newcomers to the channel. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's go ahead and jump right into the tour. Well, let's get into a much needed update on what's been going on with the King Tide Lagoon. As you guys can see, a lot of things have changed since we have last done an update on this tank as a whole. There's all kinds of new corals that have been added to the system. The fish are still doing really well, and other things are starting to grow and seemingly are happy with the system. Let's go ahead and start breaking down all the different things in the tank, talk about the equipment, how I'm really starting to enjoy some of it, and also talk about the good and the bad within the system. We'll go ahead and start off with the fish. I like talking about the fish first because they're some of my favorite things in the tank. Now, the clownfish have been doing really good. I will say one thing though, the pair has seemingly kind of gotten into a bit of a bicker because the male usually hangs out right at that green Tyree toadstool or in the Tongan yellow. So that's the male right here over here, and then this is the female. The female usually hangs out in this long polyp toadstool, and it's kind of her home, and she really likes to protect it. At night, you can see them sleeping together, so they definitely are a pair, but they kind of bicker and fight throughout the day. So I'm hoping that they can hopefully work things out, talk it over, and get back to being happy, because I really would like to see if I could get these guys to start breeding within the system. Of course, that's going to be a little bit of time. These guys need to develop a little bit more and get to more of a breeding age and size. But as for right now, the clowns are doing good. They're just fighting with one another. Now, talking about the next fish in the tank, Lucky. Lucky is doing super well. I'm really happy to say that Lucky has almost been in the tank close to a year now. In June, it'll be 1 year that I've had the Hawaiian cleaner wrasse, and that's a really good sign. Getting this fish to eat was the biggest problem and the hardest challenge that I went through, and it's usually the biggest challenge for any cleaner wrasse. Normally, what happens is the fish won't get the right amount of diet, and as you can see, Lucky usually zooms throughout the tank all day long, and so it's important to make sure that they're keeping up on a really healthy and consistent diet, and if they're not, then they have ability to possibly pass away because they're not getting enough nutrition. One thing I will say though is Lucky is constantly hunting for copepods, so it's probably good for me to amp back up the pod population because I think he's probably ran through pretty much the majority in this tank. But as for right now, Lucky is looking really healthy. He has a full belly, and that's always a nice thing to see. One thing you can notice in cleaner wrasses is they will have more of a sunken belly, and that can be a sign of malnutrition. I will say though that he does enjoy cleaning the clownfish. He will clean and kind of peck away at the clowns, but the angel doesn't allow him near him at all. And I think Lucky's kind of tedious cleaning ended up being the death sentence for the chalk bass when I originally had the chalk bass. The last and final fish in the tank is the Cherub Angel. I'm gonna try and find, there it is right there. The Cherub Angel has gotten absolutely massive. This is a fish that I've talked about trying to get out of the tank in the past, but it's eluded me. It's basically my white whale, so I'm probably gonna have to create a video series where I'm hunting this Cherub Angel and trying to get it out of the tank. I've gotten a lot of different things. I've tried a fish trap. The fish trap actually was a really good size for the lagoon, but it ended up not working out, and the angel was able to get in and out of the trap before the trap door could actually come down. I will say though, all the other fish were able to go into the trap, so if I needed to catch anything else, it'd be easy enough. But as for right now, the Cherub Angel remains in the tank, and I have not seen it pick at anything since pretty much the big picking of the MPS Gorgonian. You guys probably remember there was a really big yellow non-photosynthetic Gorgonian that used to hang out right here where the pulsing Sinularia is, but he ended up eating it all away. So I will say this Cherub Angel is kind of on its last straw here in the lagoon, but it's become kind of a, you know, a pretty happy fish in this tank for quite some time. He eats really well, and it doesn't seem to like the taste of any of the other soft corals, so I'm not genuinely concerned about it eating anything else. But as for all the fish, they're all seemingly really happy and enjoying the system. Let's go ahead and now start talking about the corals in the tank. As you guys can see, this tank is an extremely soft coral dominant system. I know a lot of people always give a bad hype and image for soft corals, saying they're really easy or anyone can keep a soft coral tank. Well, I'm definitely going to say that not all soft corals are easy. I mean, this Tongan yellow toadstool is the kind of toadstool that needs really high light. This is a toadstool that, you know, requires a lot more light than any general soft coral. This pulsing Sinularia right here is a soft coral that's really rare and unique, and it requires a lot of water flow. There's just different things with some soft corals that some people don't really understand. For example, right here up in the front, let me try to focus in on it. That is a pink lemonade Neptia. This is a coral that I got from Legendary Corals, shout out to them. And this is a piece that was really rare and something that I really wanted to add to the system, but I didn't know if it was going to fare well enough. But I know that I have quite the nutrient dense tank, so I knew that sooner or later it was gonna start picking up and getting some speed. I've definitely seen at least one little branch off from it, but this is a soft coral, for an example, that not every hobbyist can keep. Not even some of the best hobbyists can keep, because it requires a lot of feeding and it has a very specific need within our systems. Of course, most soft corals are simple to keep. I will say that, like this Tyree toadstool and Kenya tree in general can be a really easy coral and a great beginner coral. Speaking of Kenya tree, I just recently got this also from Legendary Corals. This is a really, really cool green Taiwan Kenya tree. It's a different breed or species, not species, but strain of Kenya tree that's a neon green. It's a beautiful color. I really love it, and it's starting to take off pretty well. And honestly, I'm not genuinely concerned if it starts taking off and taking over the tank. Not so much the tank, but it's definitely something I can frag up and sell to local hobbyists and other hobbyists as well. It's a really cool coral, and I'm really excited to have it. One coral that's absolutely exploded in growth, though, is the Japanese pink Neptia. This is a frag that I got from Unique Corals probably, I want to say, 5 months ago or so, but this was a coral that was really small in size. It was probably one of these single branches in size, and now it's absolutely exploded. It looks really good. I'm super happy about it, and I really like the contrasting color of the blue Capnella that's right above it. It's a really nice piece too. I really like it. There's a green Capnella also you can see that's in the back here. It kind of gets shadowed by this pink Neptia, but it's kind of cool to see the contrasting colors and the difference between them. This Xenia, which I ended up grabbing from a local hobbyist, is a ball Xenia. It's like a pom-pom Xenia, so it's not your typical Xenia where it spreads over the rockwork. It has a single stalk, and then it has a ball of Xenia at the top, much like a pom-pom. It's doing pretty good in the tank. Originally, it was down here, but it had worked up all the way to this section, so I'm guessing that it just wanted some more light. I'm completely fine with it hanging out up here. I like it. It's a nice piece, but it's a really cool corner over here. Some really unique and different soft corals that you don't normally see in everyday hobbyist tanks. This pulsing Xenularia is a beautiful piece too. It's really starting to do well in the tank. I think it really enjoys the blast from the MP10 on the opposite side, so I'm really happy about that. It's another toadstool that I got from a local hobbyist, which was considered to be a weeping willow. We all know the deal. Weeping willows aren't something you see every single day, and there's a lot of things that you need for it to be a true weeping willow. Reef Builders has a really great article and video that they talked about weeping willow, the origination, and all that good stuff, and I know for a fact that this is not a weeping willow. It's a really nice long pull-up toadstool, I will say that, but this right here, which is kind of closed up right now, is a really beautiful long pull-up toadstool as well. I also have, right hidden in the back, going to be kind of hard to see. Let's see if I can get a better image of it. You can see some of the polyps sticking out in the back, but it's a Japanese toadstool, and that has actually some really nice long polyps. I'm a huge fan of toadstools, huge fan of soft corals in general, as you guys can see, but we'll go ahead and move on to some of my favorite things in the tank, and that's my mushrooms. Right in here in the front, we have a couple really cool different mushrooms. This is a Discoma, very similar to a Jawbreaker, and it's a no-name. I really like it. It's got a very rich maroon color, and it's grown about 3 different heads, so I'm very excited about that. This is a glow stick bounce mushroom that I received from a good friend of mine, David. He gifted it to me, so thank you again, David. I really appreciate it, and I love this piece. Right behind that is a bounce mushroom that is a wild caught that I'm kind of cooking myself, and I'm going to kind of try and make into a king tide strain. It's a very cool piece. It's got some very big white bubbles that grow off of it, and honestly, it's a really, really beautiful mushroom. Moving on to the cream of the crop over here, we have the OG Bounce Garden. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4 in total OGs that I have hanging out in the garden. I have 2 big juggernaut mushrooms right there, another wild Indo. Don't mind the urchin hanging out. He is hiding in the macroalgae. Well, that's his cap that he carries around. It's another no-name right here in the middle that's a very beautiful mushroom. And then here's some Sunkiss Bounce. Right here in the back is a reef-to-reef catch that I got. It's a radioactive bounce. Along with that is a Frankenstein. Up here in the front, or in the back, excuse me, is a really beautiful colony of Neptune bounce mushrooms. I love this. This is a beautiful, beautiful colony that I've really enjoyed watching grow in my tank. It exploded. I had about, I think 4 or 5 when I originally bought it from the Reef to Reef thread, and now there's easily somewhere around, I don't know, 20, maybe 25 different mushrooms that are on this single tile. Then right next to it here in the back is a beautiful Jawbreaker colony with a mother eclectus too. I think it spat out a couple eclectuses, but mainly it is just Jawbreakers. The mother Jawbreaker is really gorgeous. There's green on her, there's red, and also I believe there's a small hint of purple within the green, so that's really nice to see. And then one of my most prized possessions right here is my Powerball Mushroom. This is a mushroom that you don't normally see on the market. It's very hard to get. It's a pretty expensive mushroom, but it was a mushroom that I was able to grab off of Reef to Reef. I shout out Reef to Reef again. I love that website. That forum is fantastic. I will always, always, always keep going back to them for knowledge, tips, help, and also the marketplace is a great place to find some really, really good steals. Moving to the front of the tank again, we'll talk a little bit about the frag rack here in the front. We have some rainbow incinerators, we have some mall gods, oxides, more rainbow incinerators. Actually, these are BSA sticker shocks, I believe. This is a really cool toadstool. It's a Japanese deep water toadstool. And then right here behind that is my clams. The 2 Maxima clams are doing extremely well. They've done well, they've made it through a couple power outages, and they've just really liked the tank. I think I really do enjoy having them in the system too, because they provide a really, really nice form of filtration, a natural form of filtration, because I know they do enjoy the nutrients that are within the system, and they tend to really like to soak up any of the nitrates, and they filter them out, which is a great addition to have in a tank. Next to those in the back is a nice little colony of Duncans that I just received when I was doing my recent tank tour series with Ryan, so thank you again, Ryan. Gave me a bunch of different pieces, and that's one of the favorite ones that I've grabbed recently. Some sad news, my Christmas tree worm rocks have not done extremely well here in the past. It went through a pretty big power outage, and I think that may have been the dismay of a lot of these worms. Last night, though, as I was hanging out and doing some late night checking out in the tank, I did see quite a few worms poking their heads out. I think they really do like to come out at night mainly. And the crabs are still doing good. You can see some of the crabs hanging out here. They're still alive and well. I really do wish I had the original colony. There was about 7 of them in there, but sadly only 2 made it. But it's good to still have them. I really do still love this rock. The Porites isn't doing super great. I don't know exactly why, but it seems as though the worms are still maintaining, and I wonder if that is the case of why some of the worms have not made it, is because the Porites not going through super well. Some other things I want to talk about is I've added macroalgae here in the past in the lagoon. I have a huge chunk of red Haya. I have a nice chunk of Codium right here. And then sneaking here in the back is a nice little chunk of blue Hypnea that I got from Dennis, aka Tyga Boy. He gave me a really nice chunk for the macroalgae tank, and I ended up throwing a couple chunks in here just to make sure I didn't lose it, because I knew I had great stability in this tank, and they've really taken off. I know this is a pretty dirty mushroom tank or box that you guys can't check out. Shout out to Harley from PNW Custom. But inside here, I have some blue Hypnea and a bunch of really stellar jawbreakers. And then moving on to the final frag rack of the tank, we have a little bird's nest colony. Not colony, frag, sorry. And then we have some more zoas, more toadstools, a couple tyree chunks, another big colony of it right there. And then I also have a magic carpet mushroom that has actually made it through going through a bacterial infection. I cut all the bad stuff off and then put the remaining of the little good piece of the mushroom in the tank, and it seems to be making a bounce back. So that is really good stuff. As for all the equipment in the tank, I'm still really happy with everything. Obviously, top lids went above and beyond, making such a great lid for this tank. It works perfectly. I love the feeding hole, and honestly, I think the sound of the feeding hole really makes the fish react. Most of the time, whenever I reach right here, you can see all the fish start to come out and really come near the top of the tank, so that's kind of fun. The Eshops Nano Skimmer is an absolute unit. It is always pulling out good stuff and great skim for me. As you guys can see, we have some dark coffee here hanging out in the skim mate, so that's really good. And then the Kessel AP9X has been a monster of a light for me. I don't run it nearly as high as what I could. I run it at about 30%, but it's perfect for this tank. And then under the hood, everything's going super well too. You guys can see this craziness down here, but the dose is running my Alpha Reef here that I'm dosing directly into the system. And then the Apex is running, basically it's the motherboard of the entire tank, and it's running the tank extremely well. So everything's going good equipment wise. The MP10 is a wave maker that I've had for quite some time, but it's still just as good as the day I pulled it out of the box. Overall though, everything's looking super happy in the tank. I've really enjoyed giving you guys a little bit of an update of what's been going on in the lagoon. There's a lot of changes that are happening, and constantly I'm trying to better this system. Obviously, I have a ton of stuff on the bottom of the tank, but with the size of tank that I have, I've realized that I'm pretty much running out of space, and I don't have much room for many other things. So I've kind of definitely dropped back on my buying and adding to the tank, and I've started to work on shelling out some of the things that I don't really, not entirely like, but some of the things that I can feel like I can get rid of, and I feel confident that I can find some other things to fill in their void. One of those being the Black Widow Nem in that far back Nem box. Trying to find a new home for that, but with it comes a porcelain crab, so I'm trying to find the right suit for that. As you guys can see right there, they're the clownfish kind of picking on each other. Well, the female picking on the male, but overall, really happy about how the lagoon's doing. Really glad I was able to give you guys this update, and thanks again for tuning in for another episode and checking out what's been going on in the King Tide Lagoon. Thanks Reefers for stopping by and checking out this video. It was really fun sharing with you all an update on the lagoon, and I will say this is probably one of my favorite saltwater projects I've ever done. And I know I'm going to hear a lot of flack on Instagram and in the comments, and I just hear it all the time, like, oh, it's a soft coral dominant tank, it's super easy, it's for beginners, this and that. Well, guess what? I don't really care if you guys think it's for beginners, because honestly, there's a lot more corals in here than some people would be able to keep. And also, this tank isn't for everyone, it's mainly for me. I know you guys probably enjoy checking out the comment and seeing my tank, but in the end, the one guy drinking beer on the couch and checking out his tank is me. So this tank is for myself. I want to hear down in the comments below, what's your guys' favorite saltwater project or tank project you've ever done? Be happy to chat with you guys and go back and forth and talking about your favorite project you guys have ever done in the hobby. One last thing, shout out to Remy, love the t-shirt and I love his channel. He's been a huge help in making me get this platform started and helping me out develop my channel as a whole. I know a lot of you guys have come over from Remy's channel, so welcome again, thanks for stopping by. And if all of you guys are new, or if you guys haven't checked out Remy's channel, please be sure to go down in the description below, check out the link, and check out Bahama Llama Coral channel. He's got an awesome YouTube channel with all kinds of great information, and he's been super helpful with me developing my channel as a whole. So it'll really be nice if you guys go over there, show him some love, tell him the King Tide Coral family sent you. So thanks again guys for tuning in this week. Really happy to be sharing another video here on the channel. Sorry I was late with the video this past Sunday. Had a lot of construction going on and all kinds of crazy things outside my house, so it was really hard to record. But until next week guys, happy reefing.